Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk about a neglected work for piano. It's actually originally for the harpsichord or for organ or for an early keyboard instrument. It's really not for the piano, but we can certainly play it on the piano, just like as we do Bach's works. And this work is 30 Variations on Walsingham by John Bull. John Bull was a British composer, and he was born in 1562 and he died in 1628. He was an exact contemporary of John Dowland. So if you like John Dowland's lute and guitar music that he's famous for, and also his songs, if you enjoy that style, I'm sure you will enjoy this style as well, because this is sort of like playing John Dowland on the piano, but it's John Bull and not John Dowland. John Bull was considered to be the virtuoso among the early English Elizabethan keyboard composers. And what's fascinating about this work for me, and I discovered this work over 30 years ago when I was in graduate school, and I didn't perform it, but I practiced it a lot. I studied it. I tried to make sense out of it. And now, over 30 years later, I'm finally getting around to preparing my own edition of John Bull's Walsingham Variations, so piano teachers and students and performers alike can benefit from this. I think this work needs to be played, and one of the reasons why it hasn't been played in the past, and it's been basically just neglected by pianists, is that the only edition to date has been in these big clunky volumes here, the Fitzwilliam Virginal book. The Fitzwilliam Virginal book comes in two big thick volumes like this, published by Dover. These were originally published in 1899, and Dover republished them a few decades ago. And the only the only source of John Bull's Walsingham Variations comes in the very first piece, number 1, in the first volume here. And it's definitely legible. You can read it, but it's always been difficult to read, and it's clunky. I don't want to carry around this big volume. And it came to my surprise that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't found any editions of John Bull's Walsingham Variations at all. You would have thought by now that publishers like Henley or Vienna Urtext or Bärenreiter or even Schirmer, you would have thought by now that somebody would have come along and published an edition of this, and maybe as I'm speaking somebody is. But also, I am preparing my own edition, actually 2 editions of John Bull's Walsingham Variations that will be out very soon in 2024, hopefully. And I hope that this will benefit teachers and students. The reason why I'm making such a big deal about John Bull's Walsingham Variations is that it very well could have inspired Bach's Goldberg Variations. Now, we all know Bach's Goldberg Variations, great masterwork with an aria and 30 variations. Well, have you ever wondered how Bach came up with the idea? Did he just wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm just going to write 30 variations on a theme and put the theme in the beginning and end? No, I think it took a lot of thought. He didn't just wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm just going to write these 30 variations. Well, there's no proof for this. And I don't know, I guess if you really did the research, you might in fact find proof for it, but I'm not sure if there's any proof for it. But I happen to believe that John Bull, that in his Walsingham Variations as printed in the Fitzwilliam Virginal book, I happen to believe that it's very likely that Bach could have gotten his idea from John Bull about 130 years previously. So all we would have to do to prove that is to show that maybe Bach had a copy of this of this manuscript in his music library, or maybe he had heard about John Bull's 30 Variations or something, because these are the only other 30 variations that I know about. If you know of any work with 30 variations, please educate us in the comments below here, because I haven't fully done the research yet, but I'm pretty certain that the only variations with 30 of them are John Bull's Walsingham, which comes from around 1610, give or take a few years, and Bach's Goldberg Variations, which came about 130 years later, from 1740 or 1741. So if there is an inspiration behind Bach's Goldberg Variations, it is likely John Bull's 30 Variations on the theme Walsingham. Now, before I go on and talk a little more about this work and how it's significant, you can go below this video and you can print out for free. I've prepared for you a free urtext edition. That is, there's no fingerings, there's no annotations, there's no phrase markings, it's all just original. But I've done some slight modifications to adapt it to the modern piano. I haven't written any pedal marks, no pedal, no fingerings. It's a nice, clean, a very clean urtext edition of this. You can print it out and practice and perform it and even teach it at your own leisure. If you just follow the link below this video, it will bring you to the BachScholar website where you can print this out for free, And it's much better than the one in this big clunky version here. So basically I've taken what they have here and I've, sort of adapted it a little bit for the piano, changed just here and there, just some minor modifications. And I have the edition here. And then what I'm doing now, my next project in 2024 is prepare a performance edition of John Bull's Walsingham Variations. And I'm going to make it landscape like this. And I'm going to put one variation on each page. So there are variation, and so forth. And that will be much more legible than this urtext that I have here. And this urtext I have here, it's much smaller manuscript. It's a little more difficult to read, but there are 3 variations on every 2 pages instead of 2 variations on every 2 pages. So look forward to my performance edition with a preface, with my analysis and explanation of John Bull's Walsingham. Look for that in 2024, but in the meantime, print this one out and you can start working on it already. Right below this video is the link. So why are these variations so great, and why do I think so highly of them? Well, back when I was in graduate school over 30 years ago, I was a double major. I was majoring in piano and musicology, that is music history. And at the time, I was quite fascinated and preoccupied with medieval and Renaissance music. And I started to really play and enjoy some of the more earlier composers, such as these pieces in the Fitzwilliam Virginal book. And I discovered John Bull's Walsingham, which is the first work in Volume 1. It is a highly revered work. It's spoken of very highly by experts throughout the ages, yet one very peculiar thing, no one ever plays it. You will hear recordings now and then on YouTube. In fact, just about a year ago, there was a very famous pianist, Kit Armstrong, once child prodigy, now an artist in his own right. He performs the Bull's Walsingham on the Deutsche Grammophon label. So this is a major artist, a young major artist, performing or recording Bull's Walsingham on a major label. So if you haven't listened to it already, do so. It's a very impressive recording. I don't want to really get into his recording and what I really think about it, but I think, well, it's all a little too fast, but I'll talk about that later. But at least I'm so happy that a pianist of a major pianist in the world is actually recorded John Bull's Walsingham. That is an incredible thing. So the least you can do is go and listen to Kit Armstrong's recording, link below this video where you can listen to his recording. So what I would suggest you do is print out my urtext here, print this out, and pour yourself some coffee or tea, sit back and listen to Kit Armstrong play it, and you can follow along with the sheets right here. I am also in the process of preparing my own YouTube performance of the 30 variations based on my own research. And by the way, my tempos are much different than Kit Armstrong's. And not just the tempos, but the whole performance is much different. So I would highly suggest that if you are a piano teacher and or a piano student and you want to explore music out of the ordinary and you want to do something a little different, but maybe you're tired of Bach, or you're tired of Handel, but you like Baroque music, or you're just tired of all the old stuff and you want to try something new, you will definitely have a fun time, and it's very rewarding to work on these variations. They're not easy, but then on the other hand, it's not as difficult as you think. Actually, I've played both the Goldberg variations and I've played the 30 variations on Walsingham. And I would have to say the 30 variations on Walsingham by Bull is probably half the difficulty of the Goldberg variations. Only half. And it's only about half the length, too. So it's a very short theme. As I went to Walsingham. Sorry, I'm just saying the words, I'm not going to sing it. To the shrine with speed, met I with the jolly palmer in the pilgrim's weed. Now, don't ask me to translate that, but if you look that up, do a little research and look up the words, you will discover it's about a pilgrimage site in Norfolk, I believe Norfolk, England, Norfolk, don't know how to pronounce that right, Norfolk, England, I believe, if I remember correctly, called Walsingham. And so it's an ancient pilgrimage site which was popular among Catholics in England, and apparently when Catholicism went out and the Church of England was reigning superior, then this, I guess it was not accepted, I guess, to go to these pilgrimage site like Walsingham. But it's just a very simple little song with 8 measures long. It's in 3/2 time, and Bull is just really very highly innovative with his use of motives or motifs and the way that he variates the variations. It's not a set of variations based on necessarily a chord progression as Bach does in the Goldberg variations, but it's based on, you will find the main melody present in virtually all the variations. So it's a melodic the melody is like the cantus firmus, or the fixed melody. And then what Bull does is he simply changes the mood and character by changing the note values and so forth. The time signature is always 3/2. So one of the differences between Bohl's Walsingham and Bach's Goldberg Variations is that in Bohl's Walsingham, it's always the same time signature. It's always 3/2. He does have some compound variations in there, but still they conform to 3/2 time. Whereas in Bach's Goldberg Variations, Bach uses at least probably 8 different time signatures, maybe even 10. He uses a whole gamut of tempi or tempos, however you want to say that, plural. Whereas John Bohl's variations are much more conservative with their approach to tempo. So for example, you can play variation 1, you can play the beginning up to like variation 17 in Bohl's Walsingham. You can effectively play from 1 to 17 all at the same tempo. Where if you try to do that with Bach's Goldberg Variations, it will fail. You can't do it. You can't do it, it's impossible, because for one, is the time signatures or the meters all change. So they're not always 3/4 time as the aria is in the Goldbergs, but they change. So Bach has a much more rich selection of styles and time signatures and tempos in the Goldberg Variations. It's like a compendium of all or most of the styles that were available to Bach at the time. Whereas the 30 Variations on Walsingham by Bohl is pretty much the same thing, but it's very conservative with the time signatures. You only have 3/2. There are some tempo changes that I believe happen. That's due to my interpretation, but Bohl doesn't mark any tempo indications. So I'm basing my tempo on what I believe to be the tempo based on my research and my having spent about 30 years with this work. So those are the main similarities and differences between Bohl's Walsingham and Bach's Goldberg Variations. There's a difference of, as I said, 130 years between them. And they're the only works I can think of that I can recall that have 30 variations. So either it was a big coincidence that Bach wrote the Goldbergs and made them 30 variations, or Bach knew about Bohl's Walsingham and wanted to do something like that himself. There's also another very interesting similarity between the two that may give some more evidence to pointing towards Bach knowing Walsingham, and that is the bookend variations. In Bach's Goldberg Variations, as you may know, if you know them, you know that it begins with the aria, begins with the, it starts with the famous aria in the style of a saraband. That is the theme. And then after the 30 variations, then you have the theme again at the end. So you have bookends are exactly the same. You have the alpha and the omega. That's why Bach did that, to symbolize the beginning and the end. The beginning and the end are one. That's why the main reason why Bach used the aria at the beginning and the end of the Goldberg Variations was to symbolize or signify those bookends being the same, the alpha and the omega. Now, Bohl didn't get that theological with his works, but one thing that I found that's similar is the theme to Bohl's Walsingham. He calls Variation 1. So it's not called theme, it's called Variation 1. And it's pretty much a slow, very slow and stately kind of theme. So it's not a virtuoso theme, it's a slow and stately theme, just like Bach's aria, a very slow and stately theme. Well, what does he do at the end? Well, so John Bull begins with a stately theme at the beginning. He doesn't repeat it at the end like Bach does in the Goldberg Variations, but that being said, leading up to the end, there are several faster variations. So several variations in an allegro style. Then all of a sudden, variation 30, the very last one, is really slow. It's a slow and stately variation. So it goes like this. Beautiful, beautiful late Renaissance harmonies. I love Variation 30. So when I play Variation 30 of Bull's Walsingham, I always think of that going back like the Goldberg Variations. When you have all these exciting allegro variations, you have the quadlupet at the end, then you have this stately theme again, closing off the Goldbergs. Well, those similar bookends you can find in Bull's Walsingham Variations as well. So I think that that's good evidence that, or it's more evidence pointing to the possibility that Bach knew Bull's Walsingham Variations, and he used that as an inspiration to compose the Goldberg Variations. There are some other similarities too, and I've written them down on a little sticky note here. As I prepare my edition and my performance edition for piano, and as I prepare my YouTube performance, I've discovered that Bull groups the variations in a sort of a strategic way. He begins with variations 1 through 6, can be played very effectively at the same tempo. Then 7 to 9 form sort of a group of 3. Those are all at the same tempo, and I think it's good at the previous tempo too. So 1 through 9 are the same. Then 10 through 12, 10, 11, and 12, another group of 3. 13 and 14 seem to function as a pair. 15, 16, 17 are 3 together. 18 and 19 are a slower pair. 20 to 24 are the compound meter variations. These are the ones that would be like 6/8 time, the equivalent of a 6/8 time. Those are the fast ones, really fast with lots of sextuplets. Variations 25 and 26 are a pair. 27, 28, and 29, so you have 3 of them that are function together as a unit. And then you have variation 30 that's by itself at the end as one of the bookends. So this is what I've discovered in studying the Walsingham Variations. And if you know anything about my history and scholarship with the Goldberg Variations, you can see in my own edition of the Goldberg Variations, I have this chart right here where I lay out Bach's plan, his tempo plan, based on his placement of the fermatas. And so if you don't know this already, you're welcome to purchase my Goldberg Variations edition here. But the point I'm making here is that when I look at the way that Bull groups his variations in terms of character and note values, it's similar, very much similar to Bach's Goldberg Variations, the way that Bach makes pairs and groups of 3s. It's most so in the Goldberg Variations, Bach made mostly pairs and groups of 3s. And these were organized sort of in a symmetrical fashion, with the bookends being exactly the same. Well, now, Bull didn't get that exact or that scientific with it, but you can see that when you study them, it does very much the same thing. So if you want to understand and perform and teach Bowles' Walsingham Variations and really know what's going on, it really pays to know how they're broken up into their groups and pairs. For example, 25 and 26 form a perfect pair. I think they should be a little slower than the main tempo. Well, 25 and 26 in Bach's Goldberg Variations do pretty much the same thing. They're also a pair. So there are several really interesting similarities between these two sets of variations that I think I've gone over. There's probably more, but I think I've covered mostly now. I think I've covered most of the similarities in this video. So that's all I have for today. I'm really happy and excited about this new project of mine with my performance and preparation of my 2 editions, one Urtext edition and one piano performance edition that will be in landscape, which will be easy to read and easy to understand. And so if you get anything out of this video, it's just simply that I want you to enjoy a musical work that you may not know about, and I am sure you will really enjoy this piece. So just go below this video, go to the link where you can get this free sheet music, print out the free sheet music and start looking at it, start learning it, start working on it, and it will grow on you. And you'll discover, wow, this is really great music, and it's fun music, and it's not too difficult either. This is perfect for piano students. So thank you for joining me today, and I will keep you posted on my on the progress in my John Bowl project here. I'll just call it my John Bowl project. Thank you, and until we meet again.